Have you ever looked at your life and wondered, what if I could unlearn everything that holds me back? And not just bad habits, but the invisible chains: fear, procrastination, self-doubt, mental fatigue. Imagine if you could press reset, not to escape life, but to reclaim it. Imagine you give yourself just 21 days, not to change the world, but to change how you walk through it. This isn't a motivational fantasy. It's a method, a spiritual, mental, and physical purification. The ancient masters knew it. The modern world forgot it. This speech is not about motivation. Motivation fades. This is about discipline. And what you're about to hear isn't fluff. It's a map, a 21-day internal rebellion. And if you're asking, why 21 days? Let's be clear. It's not because science says habits form in 21 days. It's because it takes 21 days of deliberate, structured disruption to shake the foundation of a life lived unconsciously. It's not about adding things, it's about removing what numbs you, removing what distracts you, removing what is not you. The process begins with stripping the noise: social noise, digital noise, egoic noise, and arriving in the quiet discomfort of self. This is the battlefield, because the moment you start confronting your patterns, sleeping in, overthinking, complaining, eating mindlessly, you start facing a mirror that doesn't lie. The pain of this truth. That's your awakening, and the most engaging part of this 21-day transformation is exactly that moment when you realize, I am not my mind, I am not my laziness, I am not my fear, you're something deeper. But you've forgotten how to be that. Through these 21 days, you'll be challenged to break free of mental imprisonment. You'll learn that freedom isn't comfort, it's responsibility, and discomfort is not punishment, it's feedback. This is not about spiritual escape, this is about spiritual confrontation. You'll confront your addiction to convenience, you'll confront the false identity you've built through likes, titles, and routines. But most of all, you'll confront your own silence, and in that silence, you'll meet the version of you that you abandoned long ago. So in this speech, I will walk you through 3 keys, tools, not to change you, but to uncover you. Remember, 21 days is not a finish line. It's the demolition of old walls. It's a ritual of breaking, and once the illusion breaks, you rise. Speech, 21 days to break free. Key point 1, confront the cage coming in full. Speech. Key point 2, rituals of silence and sweat. When you begin this journey of 21 days, you won't feel ready. That's the point. The old self will protest. He will convince you that comfort is safety. But comfort is a slow death, and these 21 days are a resurrection. This isn't about reaching perfection. It's about committing to presence, because presence is power. You see, most people live their lives like sleepwalkers. They wake up and immediately reach for their phones. They feed their minds junk before they even feed their bodies food. They absorb the anxiety of the world before they even breathe deeply. You were not born to be like this. You were not built to be soft. You were designed to endure, to channel stillness, and to master the self. But you must break through the noise to hear your own heartbeat again. These 21 days are a storm, and you are not meant to run from it. You are meant to walk into it, because inside the storm, you find clarity, you find breath, you find the version of you who doesn't need to be reminded to train, to meditate, to reflect, to act. He just does because he is. If you apply the discipline in each of these key points, not just hear them, but live them, you'll come to a day when the cravings for distraction are gone. The need to numb yourself with food, entertainment, or scrolling will evaporate. You'll no longer chase a feeling, you'll embody it. That feeling, its control, its sovereignty over your time, energy, and thoughts. You don't need more information. You don't need more apps, hacks, or gurus. What you need is solitude, sweat, structure, and a sharp reason why, and that reason isn't external. You don't do this to prove anything. You do this to remember who you are. That's the ultimate freedom, not the ability to do anything, but the strength to master yourself when nobody's watching. These 21 days are a contract, a sacred vow to stop negotiating with your weakness. Each day you don't quit, a layer of the false self falls away, and by day 21, you won't become someone else. You'll finally become you, unapologetically, unshakably, unconditionally. And in that moment, no external force can control you, because a man or woman who has conquered themselves is more powerful than any ruler. That is freedom, that is the gift of 21 days, and that is the beginning. To truly begin the journey of breaking free in 21 days, you must first confront the cage, not a physical one, but the invisible cage built around your mind and your habits. This cage isn't made of steel. It's made of repetition, of stories you keep telling yourself, of beliefs that were never truly yours, and of fears you never chose but accepted. Every time you say, "This is just how I am," or "I've always done it this way," you reinforce the bars around you. And perhaps the most dangerous part of this prison is that it's invisible to the one living inside it. You don't even realize you're trapped. You're going through routines, living a life someone else defined, responding to the world instead of consciously acting from a place of clarity. And to shatter this cage, you must first see it. So how do you start seeing it? You observe. You become the witness. In the first few days of this 21-day journey, your primary job isn't to change your entire life overnight. It's to pay attention. Pay attention to how you start your mornings. Do you wake up with purpose or out of obligation? Pay attention to your words. How often do you complain, compare, or criticize yourself and others? Pay attention to your energy. What drains you? What triggers you? What steals your peace? When you bring awareness to your patterns, you start to realize how much of your life is on autopilot. Confronting the cage means taking radical responsibility. It's realizing that while circumstances may not be your fault, your response to them is your choice. This isn't about blame, it's about ownership. Ownership is where power begins. You may have been shaped by your upbringing, your environment, or your past failures, but those influences are not who you are. They are what you've experienced. There's a difference. The more you confuse your identity with your past, the more tightly the cage closes in on you. Now, this confrontation is not easy. On the surface, it seems like a mental exercise, but emotionally, it will feel like a war. Because when you remove the distractions and excuses, you are left with the truth, and the truth can be uncomfortable. You start seeing how much you've delayed your growth. You see how often you've chosen what's easy over what's meaningful. You see how you've been waiting for motivation, waiting for support, waiting for some external permission to live fully. But life does not wait. It passes you by while you're getting ready. It moves with or without your participation, and the longer you delay, the deeper the cage sets in. Confronting the cage also means letting go of the identity you've built to be accepted by others. You must ask, who am I without the titles, the likes, the validation, the opinions of my peers? Who am I in stillness? This question terrifies many, because when you strip away all external definitions, you face a void. And in that void, you realize how much of your sense of self has been constructed, not created. But here lies the power. That emptiness is not a lack. It's a blank slate. And only when the old identity dies can the real you begin to emerge. It is in this process, this courageous confrontation, where transformation becomes possible. But remember, transformation is not always loud. It doesn't always come with lightning bolts or dramatic breakthroughs. Sometimes it's subtle. It's the moment you wake up early even when you don't want to. It's the moment you choose to meditate instead of scroll. It's when you say no to comfort and yes to discomfort, because you know the discomfort is where your growth lies. This cage is also made of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of not being enough, and most of all, fear of change. Because even though your current patterns may be painful, they're familiar. And the human mind craves familiarity, but familiarity is not the same as peace. In fact, most of what you call normal is just a loop you've repeated enough times to forget it's optional. You're not afraid of starting new habits. You're afraid of what you'll lose if you do. You might lose comfort. You might lose the people who are only attached to your old version. You might lose the ability to hide, but what you gain in return is far greater, sovereignty over your life. And you'll notice during this confrontation that resistance will rise. Resistance will tell you you're too tired, too busy, too late. It will whisper, just start tomorrow, but resistance is a liar. And the more you listen to it, the more the cage wins. This resistance isn't your enemy though, it's your test. It's the dragon guarding the treasure, and the treasure is your transformation. The key is to expect the resistance, but not obey it. Learn to act despite it. Learn to move forward even if your mind is screaming for retreat. The pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret, that lingers for a lifetime. In these first 7 days of your 21-day journey, don't expect perfection. Expect confrontation, expect discomfort, expect to meet the part of you that's been hiding behind routine. You're not here to be inspired, you're here to be exposed. To your own limitations, yes, but also to your buried strength. You don't have to fix everything, you just have to face it. Face the truth, face the noise in your head, face the lies you tell yourself. And the moment you do that, the bars of the cage begin to rust. By confronting the cage, you reclaim your inner authority. You no longer outsource your power to your moods or your circumstances. You stop saying, "I can't help it," and you start saying, "I choose differently." That shift, subtle but seismic, is the beginning of true freedom. You'll no longer be a slave to your lower nature. You'll begin the process of rising, slowly, deliberately, unshakably. So take a deep breath. This is the beginning of war, not with the world, but with the part of you that prefers limitation over liberation. Face it, break it, and watch what happens when the cage falls away and you finally step out into your own life, awake, aware, and unchained. Once you've confronted the cage, seen it, acknowledged it, and stood in front of it without turning away, the next step is to build the tools that will help you stay out of it. And these tools are not loud, complex, or glamorous. They're not digital, they're not something you can buy. They are ancient, timeless, and profoundly simple: silence and sweat. These are the two rituals that will not only keep you free, but remind you every day that your freedom must be earned. Because freedom is not a moment, it's a practice. Silence is the place where your real self lives, but we avoid it at all costs. We fill our days with stimulation, with conversation, with music, podcasts, television, endless scrolling, not because we enjoy it, but because we are terrified of silence. In silence, we hear our thoughts, we feel our regrets, we confront our doubts. We come face to face with the person we are when no one is watching. But this discomfort is sacred. In silence, everything becomes visible: the lies you believe, the pain you've been carrying, the self-sabotage you've normalized. Silence strips away the performance. It removes the external mask and reveals the internal chaos. And the first time you sit with it, it will feel like drowning. Your mind will resist. Your ego will scream. But stay there, sit still, breathe, let it all rise. Silence is not the absence of noise. It's the space where truth emerges, and when practiced daily, even for 10 or 15 minutes, it becomes a mirror. A mirror you cannot escape. In that mirror, you start to see where you are fragmented. You begin to notice how often your actions are driven by fear, how much of your energy is spent pleasing others, how deeply you seek validation outside of yourself. And once you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. You begin to crave this raw, honest space, because even though it hurts, it's real. And we live in a world starving for the real. But silence alone is not enough. The body must also be brought into the ritual, and this is where sweat enters, the physical discipline, the commitment to move, to push, to exert. This isn't about building muscle or burning calories. It's about forging internal steel through external effort. The moment you move your body beyond its comfort zone, your mind is forced to either collapse or rise, and every day you choose to rise, even if it's just a little, you remind yourself that you are not soft. You are not fragile. You are capable of doing hard things. Sweat is truth made physical. It strips away the excuse maker inside you. It silences the inner victim. It teaches your body how to carry discomfort without quitting. Every drop of sweat is a vote for your future self, and it's not about how far you run, how many push-ups you do, or how heavy the weight is. It's about showing up, daily, It's about teaching your body to obey the higher mind, not the lower cravings. Because when your body learns to submit to your will, your whole life shifts. You stop reacting to life and start commanding it. These two rituals, silence and sweat, are the foundations of freedom. They create order in a world that thrives on chaos. They build focus in a world obsessed with distraction. They ground you. Every morning you begin with silence. You plant yourself in awareness. You remind yourself that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your memories. You are the awareness behind it all. And from that awareness you move your body, not as punishment, but as ritual. You sweat not to look good, but to feel strong, to forge the discipline that will carry you through every challenge. As the days pass, these rituals become your compass. They orient you. When life feels overwhelming, you return to silence. When your mind feels weak, you return to sweat. When temptation pulls you back into the cage, you return to the breath, to the stillness, to the movement. These practices are not just tasks, they are medicine. They detox the mental poison you've accumulated, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the mental fog. With every silent breath, you clear the noise. With every disciplined rep, you shatter the weakness. You begin to feel your power returning, not arrogance, not ego, but quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to shout, the kind that doesn't need recognition, the kind that doesn't need applause. It simply is. And the people around you will notice. They'll feel something different in your presence, not louder but deeper, not flashier but firmer. That is the power of living from ritual. But these rituals are fragile if you don't protect them. The world will try to steal them. You'll be tempted to skip a day, to sleep in, to postpone until tomorrow. Don't. These moments are sacred. Treat them like non-negotiable appointments with your highest self. Protect them like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Not your physical life, perhaps, but your true life. The life where you are awake, disciplined, grounded, and sovereign. And perhaps the greatest gift of these rituals is what they teach you about time. You begin to understand that your time is sacred, that each moment you spend in distraction is a moment you steal from your destiny. You no longer casually waste your days. You no longer say maybe later, because you know later is a lie. There is only now, there is only this moment, this breath, this choice. By week 2 of the 21 days, the resistance will shift. At first it will scream, then it will whisper, then it will fade, not because life becomes easy, but because you become stronger. The discipline you build through silence and sweat becomes part of you. You wake up ready. You move with purpose. You speak less but say more. You crave depth instead of stimulation. And for the first time in a long time, you feel aligned. Not perfect, not finished, but aligned. Your actions match your values. Your mind obeys your mission. Your body follows your command. And in that space, everything changes. Decisions become easier. Clarity returns. Peace replaces anxiety, and you begin to experience something rare in this world, internal freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from mental slavery, freedom from the constant loop of overthinking, comparing, craving, and escaping. You don't need to escape anymore. You've built something better, a place to live, a daily practice that grounds you, sharpens you, strengthens you. These 21 days are not about transformation that comes from the outside. They're about remembering the warrior within. Silence and sweat, simple, brutal, beautiful, are your gateway. Enter them daily, respect them deeply, and watch how the noise fades and the truth of who you are begins to rise from the ashes of your old self. The final step in your 21-day transformation is perhaps the most difficult, not because it requires more strength, but because it demands the kind of honesty that most people spend their whole lives avoiding. This step is about the death of distraction, not a temporary break from technology, not a digital detox, not a few hours offline. It is the complete surrender of your addiction to noise, stimulation, and mental escape. You cannot break free while still clinging to the things that keep you chained. And in the modern world, distraction is the most seductive chain of all. Distraction isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you reach for again and again. It's a voluntary exit from your life. Every time you open your phone to scroll instead of sit with discomfort, you choose escape over growth. Every time you binge content instead of reflect, you reinforce the belief that you are too fragile to face yourself. But you're not fragile. You're just conditioned to avoid boredom, conditioned to fill every gap in your day with noise, conditioned to seek stimulation over silence. This isn't a character flaw. It's a result of thousands of small compromises, tiny decisions that accumulate over time and rob you of presence. To kill distraction is to kill the part of yourself that thrives on avoidance. You must be willing to feel empty. You must be willing to let the silence stretch long enough to feel uncomfortable. You must resist the urge to check, to click, to refresh, and it will be hard. In the beginning, you'll feel anxious, restless, irritable. You'll reach for your phone without even realizing it, not out of need, but out of habit. That unconscious reflex is the symptom of deeper dependency, and until you name it, confront it, and eliminate it, you will remain a prisoner. Distraction is not neutral. It has a cost. It costs you your depth. It scatters your focus. It fractures your attention into pieces so small that you can no longer hold a single thought long enough to act on it. You lose the ability to think clearly, to reflect deeply, to be with people without checking out. But perhaps the most dangerous cost is this: distraction kills connection, not just with others, but with yourself. You begin to feel disconnected from your intuition, your passion, your purpose, and this disconnection feels like numbness. You stop feeling alive, not because life lacks meaning, but because you are no longer in it. You're living on the surface, observing your life like a movie, never truly participating, and the tragedy is, you don't even realize it until the noise stops. But when you commit to ending distraction, something begins to shift. At first, the silence feels like withdrawal. Your mind searches for something to cling to. It begs for stimulation. It wants to escape. But if you can endure this phase, if you can sit still long enough to feel your craving for noise, you begin to see what lies beneath it. You begin to recognize how much of your life has been managed through distraction, how many feelings you've avoided, how many conversations you've postponed, how many dreams you've delayed, not because of fear, but because you kept looking away. And in looking away, you lost sight of yourself. This step isn't about punishing yourself. It's about reclaiming your attention, because your attention is your life force. Whatever you give it to grows. When you give it to negativity, fear grows. When you give it to trivial entertainment, shallowness grows. When you give it to people who drain you, resentment grows. But when you take it back, when you center it, sharpen it, and aim it, you become unstoppable. Focused attention is the most powerful force a human being can possess, and you will never find it in a distracted life. The process of removing distraction starts with one brave decision: to stop outsourcing your boredom. Let it come, let yourself be bored, let yourself sit in the emptiness, let the discomfort arise, and when it does, don't reach for a screen, don't open a new tab, don't press play, just stay, because in that discomfort is your breakthrough. You will start to hear things you've never heard before, your own voice, your own ideas, your own truth, and you will realize it was always there, buried under notifications and noise. You just never listened. You must build new boundaries. You must create spaces that protect your presence. No screens in the first hour of your day. No endless scrolling before sleep. No meaningless consumption during meals. These aren't just habits, they are rituals of reclamation. Each one declares, I am here, I am present, I will not trade my attention for entertainment, I will not numb my awareness for comfort, and in doing so, you strengthen your inner core. You no longer live at the mercy of algorithms. You no longer respond to every buzz and beep like a trained animal. You become sovereign, and this sovereignty radiates. People will notice that you're not scattered anymore, that your eyes aren't always flicking toward your phone, that when you speak, you're there, fully, and that presence, it's rare, it's magnetic, it's powerful, because it tells the world, this is someone who values their time, their energy, their life. And in a world that rewards shallow engagement, your depth becomes your superpower. The death of distraction is not just about avoiding the external. It's about confronting the internal, because ultimately, distraction is a symptom. It's a symptom of inner unrest, of a life not fully aligned, of a self that's too afraid to sit still, and when you cut out the noise, you're forced to face that. But that's where the gold is. In that stillness, you remember your purpose. You rediscover your voice, you reconnect with your mission, and you finally start living with intention. By the third week of your 21-day journey, if you've truly committed, something incredible happens. You stop needing distraction. You begin to crave stillness. You want deeper conversations, richer experiences, quieter mornings. You no longer tolerate mindless consumption. You no longer entertain low-quality inputs. Because you've raised your standard, you've remembered who you are, and what you are is not a consumer. You are a creator, a builder, a warrior, a thinker, a soul, and distraction has no place in the life of someone who's awake. You are no longer interested in wasting your time pretending you have more of it, because you now understand every moment is either a deposit into your destiny or a withdrawal from it. Choose wisely. Let the death of distraction be your rebirth into presence, into power, into full spectrum living. Let it be the fire that burns away what no longer serves, and when you emerge from it, clear, grounded, focused, know this: the world didn't change. You did, and now that you are no longer divided, now that you are whole, there is nothing you cannot build, nothing you cannot overcome, nothing you cannot become.